poor young nurse helped a fainting old woman, not knowing she was the billionaire CEO's mother. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. It all began on a chilly evening when the wind cut through the streets like thin blades of ice, and the city lights flickered against the darkening sky. Anna, a young nurse working double shifts at a crowded hospital downtown, was on her way home after another exhausting 12-hour day. Her backpack felt heavier than usual, filled with textbooks she barely had time to study, bills that never seemed to shrink, and a half-eaten sandwich she had forgotten to finish. She was tired, overwhelmed, and ready to collapse into bed. But fate had different plans for her that night. As she crossed a busy intersection, she noticed a sleek black SUV pulled over on the side of the street with its hazard lights blinking. At first, she thought it was just another car having engine trouble, but then she saw a woman slump forward in the passenger seat. Without thinking, Anna sprinted toward the vehicle, instincts kicking in. When she reached the door, she found an elderly woman unconscious, her breathing shallow and her pulse dangerously weak. Panic briefly washed over Anna, but years of training pushed through. She tugged the woman out carefully, lowering her onto the sidewalk and checking her vitals. A few pedestrians had gathered, watching anxiously, but no one moved to help. Anna called out for someone to dial 911, then quickly began CPR. Her hands were steady, her breaths controlled, even as her heart pounded in her chest. She kept counting compressions, refusing to let fear distract her. Just as she was about to start another round, she heard fast footsteps approaching behind her. A man's voice, deep and breathless, broke through the noise around them. Is she breathing? What happened? Anna glanced up briefly and saw a tall man in a sharp suit kneeling beside her, his face pale with fear. She did not know him, but his expression said one thing clearly. He cared deeply about the woman lying on the ground. She fainted, Anna said quickly, moving back into position. I need space. Let me work. The man nodded, swallowing hard, his eyes locked onto his mother's face. Anna continued CPR, refusing to give up. The sounds of the street faded into a distant hum as she focused solely on saving the woman's life. After several tense moments, the elderly woman's chest finally rose with a weak but steady breath. Relief washed over Anna, and the man exhaled shakily, staring at her with a mixture of shock and gratitude. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder by the second. As the paramedics hurried toward them, Anna stepped back, exhausted but relieved. She had done her job. The elderly woman was safe. But as Anna stood there, catching her breath in the cold night air, she had no idea that saving this stranger would become the turning point of her life, pulling her into a world she never imagined and connecting her to a man whose identity would change everything she thought she knew about fate, kindness, and second chances. In the days following the incident, Anna tried to return to her normal life, but something inside her felt different. The night she saved the elderly woman replayed in her mind over and over, not because she sought recognition, but because she had felt a strange pull toward the man who had rushed to his mother's side. His face had lingered in her thoughts longer than she expected, the fear in his eyes, the gratitude he tried but failed to express in that chaotic moment. She did not even know his name. And to her, that was fine. She had done what any trained nurse would do. At least that was what she told herself. A few days later, Anna was finishing another long shift at the hospital. Her feet ached, her eyes stung from lack of sleep, and all she wanted was to collapse into bed. As she walked toward the exit, one of the receptionists called out her name. Anna, someone is waiting for you. She frowned, confused. No one ever waited for her. Not at work. Not at home. She followed the receptionist's gesture and saw a tall man in a charcoal gray suit, standing near the lobby entrance, hands clasped in front of him. The moment he turned toward her, her breath caught in her throat. It was him, the man from that night, the man whose mother she had saved. He stepped forward, his expression composed, but his eyes carrying a depth she recognized instantly. Anna, he asked, his voice warm and steady. She nodded slowly, unsure what to say. I hope I am not interrupting. My name is Ethan Carter. The last name struck her immediately. Carter. As in Carter Enterprises, the company plastered across half the city's skyscrapers. She had seen the name on buildings, billboards, and magazines, but she had never imagined meeting someone from that world. I wanted to thank you properly, Ethan continued. What you did for my mother. He paused, the emotion tightening his voice before he recovered. You saved her life, and I do not take that lightly. Anna felt her cheeks warm with embarrassment. She shook her head. I just did what I was trained to do. Ethan smiled gently. I have heard that before, but not everyone acts when the moment comes. You did. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a business card. My mother asked to see you. She wants to thank you herself, and I would very much appreciate it if you would allow us to do so. Anna hesitated, glancing at the card. It was heavy, made of fine textured paper, the kind she had only seen in magazines. The name printed at the top read Margaret Carter. She swallowed, suddenly unsure. Meeting the woman she saved felt natural. Meeting the mother of one of the wealthiest men in the state? That felt intimidating. I do not want to intrude, Anna said softly, her fingers brushing the edge of the card. You would not be intruding, Ethan replied. You would be honoring her request. His voice was gentle, persuasive without being forceful. Anna studied him for a moment. He seemed sincere, honest, not the arrogant corporate type she expected a billionaire to be. She finally nodded. All right, I can stop by tomorrow afternoon before my shift. Ethan's expression softened with relief. Thank you, Anna. Truly. He stepped back, giving her space. I will send a car to pick you up. My mother wants you to be comfortable. Anna blinked in surprise. A car? For her? That is not necessary, she said quickly. I can take the bus. Ethan shook his head. Please, let us take care of it. After everything you did, it is the least we can do. His sincerity left her with no argument. She nodded again. Okay, tomorrow then. Ethan gave her one last grateful smile before turning to leave. Anna watched him walk through the glass doors, the world outside reflecting off the polished floor beneath his feet. She clutched the card in her hand, her heart beating faster than she liked to admit. She had no idea what tomorrow would bring, but something told her this was only the beginning. And deep down, even if she would not say it aloud, she felt a quiet spark of anticipation she could not explain. The next afternoon arrived faster than Anna expected, and despite telling herself she had nothing to be nervous about, she found her stomach twisting the moment she stepped outside her apartment building. Parked at the curb was a sleek black town car, polished to a mirror-like shine, looking so out of place in her modest neighborhood that a few people slowed down just to stare at it. A driver in a crisp uniform stepped out and opened the back door for her with a polite nod. Miss Anna, he asked. She nodded, still uncertain if this entire situation was real. She slid into the back seat, feeling the soft leather beneath her and trying not to look as overwhelmed as she felt. The car pulled away smoothly, and the city outside blurred past her window. She had no idea what she would say to Margaret Carter. Thank you did not feel like enough, and anything more felt strange. After all, saving people was part of her job, not something she ever expected praise for. When the car turned into a long, winding driveway lined with trees and trimmed hedges, Anna's breath caught. At the end of the path stood a large, elegant estate, the kind of place she had only ever seen in movies. The front doors opened before the car even stopped, and two staff members stepped out to greet her. Anna hesitated before stepping out, feeling suddenly out of place in her simple work clothes. She tugged at the hem of her top, wishing she had worn something nicer. The staff members led her through the grand foyer, where sunlight streamed through tall windows and illuminated polished marble floors. Everything smelled faintly of lavender and fresh linen. Finally, they guided her into a cozy sunroom where Margaret Carter sat in a cushioned chair, wrapped in a soft blanket. She looked much better than the night Anna had found her. Her eyes were brighter, her complexion warmer, and when she saw Anna, her entire face lit up. My dear, Margaret said, her voice soft but clear. You must be the young woman who saved my life. Anna felt her cheeks warm. She nodded politely. I am glad you are feeling better. You gave all of us a scare that night. Margaret chuckled gently. So I have been told. Come closer, please. Anna stepped forward. Margaret reached out and took her hand with surprising strength. You were there when no one else knew what to do. I owe you more gratitude than I can ever express. You do not owe me anything, Anna said sincerely. I was just passing by at the right moment. Anyone would have helped if they knew what to do. Margaret squeezed her hand. But they did not. You did. Before Anna could respond, she heard footsteps approaching from behind. She turned and saw Ethan entering the room, dressed more casually than before, but still carrying that calm confidence that seemed to follow him everywhere. He smiled when he saw her. Anna, I am glad you made it. His voice was warm, familiar in a way that made something flutter in her chest. Thank you for inviting me, she said quietly. Ethan stepped closer, his gaze softening. We are the ones who should be thanking you. Margaret nodded firmly. Which is why I asked Ethan to bring you here. You deserve to be acknowledged. Anna felt a rush of discomfort at the attention. She had never liked being in the spotlight. But Margaret's eyes were filled with genuine appreciation, and Ethan's expression echoed the same sentiment. I do have one question, Margaret said, leaning back slightly. What will it take for you to allow us to repay you? Anna blinked, startled. Repay me? That is really not necessary. I did not do it for anything in return. Margaret's smile softened. I know that, dear. Which is exactly why I want to. Ethan added, we are not talking about anything extravagant. Just an opportunity. If you will. Let us. Anna hesitated, unsure what that meant. Ethan seemed to sense her uncertainty. No pressure, he said gently. Just hear us out. My mother would like to offer you something that could help you. Something meaningful. Margaret nodded. You gave me back my life. I want to give you something that can change yours. Anna felt the weight of their sincerity settle over her. She did not know what they were planning to propose, but something inside her whispered that this moment, this exact moment, was going to alter the course of her life in ways she could not yet imagine. And for the first time, she found herself willing to listen. Anna sat there in the warm sunroom, surrounded by the quiet elegance of the Carter estate, trying to process everything that Margaret and Ethan had just said. She had come simply to check on the woman she had saved, maybe offer comfort, maybe share a kind moment. She had not expected an offer, and certainly not one that hinted at changing her life. She swallowed, her fingers curling slightly against the soft fabric of her chair. What exactly do you mean by an opportunity? She asked carefully, her eyes moving between Margaret and Ethan. Ethan stepped forward, sliding his hands into his pockets in a thoughtful gesture. My mother oversees several charitable health initiatives. She believes in improving patient care, supporting medical staff, and creating stronger healthcare systems. She wants to bring on someone who understands what it is like on the ground level. Someone like you. Anna blinked rapidly, unsure she had heard him correctly. Me? I am just a nurse. Margaret shook her head immediately. You are not just anything. You are compassionate, quick-thinking, and dedicated. People like you make the difference between life and death. You proved that when you saved me. Anna opened her mouth, then closed it, unsure how to respond. She had never once imagined stepping into a role beyond her hospital job. She had spent years feeling invisible, stuck, weighed down by bills, student loans, and exhausting hours. Now 2 people who lived in a completely different world were telling her she could do more. That she should do more. Ethan continued, his voice steady but warm. We want you to join one of our community health projects. You would help oversee patient outreach programs, coordinate care, and provide insights from your experience. It is not about leaving nursing. It is about expanding your impact. The words hit her hard, stirring something deep inside that she had long pushed aside. She had always wanted to make a bigger difference, but life had never given her the space to pursue it. You would not be alone, Margaret added with a reassuring smile. We have a strong support team, and you would be compensated well. Anna felt her heart tighten. Money was not her motivation, but it was a constant shadow in her life. The offer was generous. More than generous. Life-changing. But accepting something from someone she had saved? That felt complicated. I do not know, Anna said softly, her voice strained. I am grateful. I truly am. But this feels overwhelming. Ethan took a slow breath and crouched slightly so he was closer to eye level with her. His expression was calm, sincere, and unexpectedly gentle. You do not have to decide today, and there is absolutely no pressure. We are offering this because we believe in you, not because we expect anything in return. Margaret nodded. You saved my life without hesitation. Let us give you the chance to save many more. Anna looked down at her hands, her thoughts swirling. She imagined stepping into an office instead of a crowded emergency room. working with a team instead of running from crisis to crisis, having a voice in decisions that affected real lives. It felt unreal, terrifying, and exciting. Before she could speak, a soft knock sounded at the sunroom door, and a staff member stepped inside, informing Margaret it was time for her medication. Margaret waved him off gently, then turned back to Anna. Please think about it, dear. Come back tomorrow if you like. Have dinner with us. Ask us anything you want. We want you to be comfortable. Anna nodded slowly, overwhelmed by the kindness, the sincerity, and the weight of the moment. Ethan walked her out to the front of the estate, the late afternoon sun casting a golden glow across the landscaped gardens. As they reached the steps, he paused and looked at her with a quiet intensity that made her breath hitch. Anna, he said softly, whatever you choose, I want you to know something. You were extraordinary that night. Truly extraordinary. And people like you deserve more than the world usually gives them. She felt her chest tighten again, this time with something warm and unfamiliar. Gratitude, connection, maybe even hope. She managed a small smile. Thank you, Ethan. I will think about it. I promise. He nodded, his own smile subtle but genuine. That is all we can ask. As Anna stepped into the waiting car, she felt the weight of possibilities settle around her like a new kind of gravity. For the first time in a long time, her future did not feel predetermined. It felt open. It felt full of choices. And somehow, she knew that this moment, this unexpected turn in her life, was only the beginning. That night, Anna barely slept. She lay in her small apartment, staring at the ceiling as the quiet hum of the city seeped through her window. Every word Margaret and Ethan had spoken replayed in her mind like a film stuck on repeat. An opportunity, a chance to make a bigger impact, a new direction for her life. It sounded unreal, almost like something meant for someone else, not for someone who spent most nights eating leftover soup and worrying about overdue bills. By morning, the weight of indecision pressed on her chest, but something stronger pulled her forward. Curiosity, hope, a sense that maybe, just maybe, this was the turning point she had needed for years. When she returned to the Carter estate the following evening for dinner, she felt slightly more prepared but still nervous. The house looked even more impressive under the warm glow of sunset. As she walked inside, a member of the staff guided her to a dining room that looked like it belonged in a magazine. A long wooden table, elegant place settings, soft lighting, and fresh flowers arranged with meticulous care. Ethan was already there, standing near the window, adjusting the cuff of his shirt. When he saw her, his face lit up with a warmth that surprised her. Anna, I am glad you came, he said. She felt her cheeks warm. Thank you for inviting me. Margaret entered moments later, walking slowly but steadily, her recovery already noticeable. She greeted Anna with a warm embrace that caught her off guard. My dear, you look lovely, Margaret said with genuine joy. Thank you for coming back. They all sat down for dinner, and the meal unfolded more comfortably than Anna expected. She spoke about her work at the hospital, the challenges she faced daily, the moments that lifted her, and the moments that exhausted her. Margaret listened intently, her eyes soft with empathy. Ethan watched her closely, his expression thoughtful, as though each word she said mattered deeply. After the meal, Margaret excused herself to rest, leaving Anna and Ethan alone in the quiet dining room. A soft breeze drifted in from the open balcony door, carrying the faint scent of jasmine from the garden outside. Anna glanced at Ethan, suddenly aware of the silence. I want to ask, she said softly, why me? You must know dozens of people with more qualifications. Why offer something so important to someone like me? Ethan leaned back slightly, his eyes studying her with quiet intensity. Because people like you are rare, Anna. You act without hesitation. You lead without trying. You care without expecting anything in return. That night, you did not wait for someone else to help. You took control. You saved a life. That is leadership. Anna looked down, her pulse quickening. I was terrified, she admitted. Ethan smiled gently. Being terrified and still doing the right thing is what makes it remarkable. She felt breathless for a moment, caught off guard by the sincerity in his voice. This project we want you to be part of, Ethan continued. It needs someone who understands real people, real problems, and real solutions. Not someone who sits behind a desk guessing what people need. Someone who has lived it. Anna swallowed hard. It is still a big responsibility. Yes, Ethan agreed. But you would not be alone. We would support you every step of the way. My mother believes in you. So do I. His voice softened at the last words, almost hesitant, as if revealing more than he intended. Anna felt something shift inside her at that moment. The fear was still there, but it was no longer the loudest feeling. There was something else growing beside it, belief, maybe even pride. If I say yes, she said quietly, what happens next? Ethan exhaled slowly, as though he had been waiting for that question. Then we begin. Training, onboarding, introducing you to the team. You would shadow my mother for a while. It would be challenging, but I think you would excel. Anna let out a shaky breath. This is a lot to take in. I know, Ethan replied, offering a small reassuring smile. But everything meaningful usually is. They walked out onto the balcony afterward. The city stretched out beneath them like a blanket of shimmering stars. Anna leaned against the railing, letting the cool air wash over her. Ethan stood beside her, close enough that she could sense his presence, but not close enough to intimidate her. You do not have to decide tonight, he said softly. But whatever choice you make, just know that you have already changed something. You made a difference the moment you stepped in to help my mother. And you can make an even bigger one if you choose to. Anna stared out at the skyline, her heart full, her thoughts spinning. She did not know what tomorrow held or how her life would change. But for the first time in a very long time, she felt something warm take root inside her, possibility. And she was not ready to let go of it. Over the next week, Anna found herself drifting between excitement and fear as she considered the opportunity Ethan and Margaret had offered her. Every morning, she returned to the hospital for her regular shifts, slipping back into the familiar rhythm of patient charts, medication rounds, and hurried footsteps across the polished floors. But even as she worked, her mind kept returning to the Carter estate, to the conversation on the balcony, and to the way Ethan had looked at her with unwavering confidence. It felt as though two versions of her life were pulling her in different directions, and for the first time, she could actually see a future beyond the hospital walls. 3 days later, Anna received a message from Ethan. It was simple and polite, not pushy at all, but it sent her heart racing the moment she read it. My mother would love to see you again if you have time this evening. No expectations, just conversation. I can have the car pick you up. Anna hesitated only a moment before replying that she would come. That evening, she found herself once again stepping through the grand entrance of the Carter estate. This time, however, she felt slightly more grounded, no longer overwhelmed by the opulence, but still fully aware of how different this world was from her own. Margaret greeted her warmly in the living room, sitting comfortably on a plush sofa with a knitted shawl around her shoulders. Ethan stood nearby, reviewing documents spread out on a marble table. When he looked up and saw Anna, his expression immediately softened. Anna, welcome back, he said, stepping forward. She nodded politely. Thank you for inviting me. Margaret patted the seat beside her. Come sit, dear. I have been thinking about you all week. Anna sat down, folding her hands in her lap. Margaret studied her with kind, observant eyes. Have you given more thought to our offer? Anna exhaled slowly. I have. It is a big leap. I am scared of making the wrong choice. Margaret nodded knowingly. Being afraid means you are about to grow. The day we stop learning is the day we stop living. Ethan moved closer, leaning against the table. If you say yes, we will guide you. You will not be left alone to figure everything out. Anna appreciated his reassurance, but she also felt an unexpected pressure building in her chest. She did not want to disappoint them. She did not want to fail. There is something else, she admitted quietly. If I take this role, I will be responsible for people. Real people. What if I am not enough? Ethan's eyebrows pulled together in a subtle frown, but not one of frustration, one of understanding. Anna, he said gently, the people who fear failing are usually the ones most determined to do the job well. You are not reckless. You are not careless. You think. You listen. You care. That alone puts you miles ahead of most leaders. Anna felt her breath catch at the sincerity in his voice. Margaret reached over and gently squeezed her hand. You saved my life because you trusted your instincts. Trust them again. Anna's chest tightened with emotion. She had always been the person who held everything together for everyone else. The one who took responsibility without ever asking for help. To hear someone speak to her like that, to have two people believe in her so deeply, felt both overwhelming and deeply moving. "We want to show you something," Ethan said softly. He motioned for her to follow him. Anna stood and walked with him down a hallway lined with artwork and family photos until they entered a bright, modern office. On one wall, large screens displayed charts, graphs, and schedules. On the desk lay a folder with her name embossed on the cover in gold lettering. "What is this?" she asked, touching it as though it might vanish. "Your onboarding plan," Ethan explained. "If you accept the position, this outlines your first 8 weeks. Training sessions, shadowing, introductions to the team. It is structured so you never feel lost." Anna opened the folder slowly. Her name stared back at her in elegant print, looking strangely powerful in such a polished setting. Ethan continued, his voice lower now. "This role is not just a job. It is a chance to reshape how healthcare reaches people who usually fall through the cracks. You understand them. You were one of them. That perspective makes you invaluable." Anna swallowed hard, a mix of pride and fear swirling in her chest. She looked up at Ethan. He was watching her quietly, his expression soft, encouraging, almost vulnerable. "You can say no," he said gently, "but I hope you will not." For a long moment, Anna said nothing. She glanced around the room, at the screens, at the charts, at the folder with her name glinting under the lights. She had spent years surviving, scraping by, pushing through exhaustion just to stay afloat. And now, here was a path offering something she had never dared to imagine. Purpose, growth, stability, and maybe something deeper she could not yet put into words. Her voice trembled slightly as she finally spoke. I think I am ready to try." Ethan's expression melted into a soft, relieved smile, the kind that reached his eyes. "Then we begin," he said quietly. "Step by step. Together." At that moment, Anna felt something shift inside her. A sense of stepping into a future she had once thought belonged to someone else. But now, it felt like it belonged to her. The first few weeks of Anna's new role were nothing like she had imagined. She had expected a slow start, a gentle transition, maybe even a bit of hand-holding, but the reality was far more intense. Every morning began early at the Carter Foundation offices, a beautiful modern building with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. She was introduced to teams, briefed on projects, and guided through meetings filled with unfamiliar terminology and high expectations. At first, she felt like she was constantly running to catch up, her mind racing just to keep track of everything. But every time she doubted herself, she remembered Ethan's words, or the warmth in Margaret's eyes when she spoke about improving patient care. Those reminders kept her pushing forward. Despite the support, the pressure was real. Her nights grew longer, her shoulders tighter, and her inner critic louder. One evening, after a particularly difficult day of trying to solve an issue that had stalled one of their community outreach programs, Anna stayed late in her small office, staring at the same report for over an hour. Her head throbbed, and her eyes burned from exhaustion. She rubbed her temples and leaned back in her chair, letting out a frustrated sigh. She had come so far, but today she felt like she was drowning. At that moment, there was a soft knock on her door. She looked up to see Ethan standing there, holding 2 cups of tea. His tie was loosened, his sleeves rolled up, and his expression full of quiet concern. "You have been in here for hours," he said gently, walking in and setting the tea on her desk. "I figured you might need something warm." Anna forced a smile. "Thank you. I am just trying to understand this data. It feels like I am still 3 steps behind everyone else." Ethan pulled up a chair beside her and leaned forward, glancing at the report. "You are not behind. You are learning. There is a difference." Anna let out a breath she did not realize she had been holding. "Sometimes it feels like I am pretending, like I do not belong in a place like this." Ethan looked at her, truly looked at her, with a seriousness that made her chest tighten. "Anna," he said softly, "you belong here more than most people in this building. Do you know why? Because you have lived the problems we are trying to solve. You understand people, not just numbers. That is something that cannot be taught." She swallowed hard, her eyes drifting back to the report. His words steadied her, grounding her in a way she could not explain. "I am afraid of failing," she admitted quietly. Ethan nodded. "Good. That means you care. And caring is what makes great leaders." They worked together for the next hour, reviewing the data, brainstorming solutions, and breaking the issue down piece by piece. Anna felt her confidence slowly rebuild as the puzzle began to make sense. Ethan guided her when she needed help, but let her take the lead, letting her thoughts unfold without judgment. When they finally found a solution to present to the team, Anna felt a spark of accomplishment she had not felt in weeks. As they packed up for the night, Ethan paused by the door. "You are doing better than you think," he said quietly. "And I am here if you ever need help." His voice carried something gentle, something she could feel lingering in the air long after he walked away. Anna leaned against her desk, letting the stillness settle around her. She was exhausted, overwhelmed, and unsure of what tomorrow would bring. But beneath all of that, somewhere deep in her chest, there was a growing certainty she could no longer ignore. She was changing, growing, becoming someone stronger than she ever imagined. And whether she was ready to admit it or not, Ethan was becoming a part of that transformation in a way she had not anticipated. The road ahead would not be easy, but for the first time, Anna felt like she was not walking it alone. The following weeks became a whirlwind of growth for Anna, and although she was slowly gaining her footing, the intensity of the job did not ease. Each day brought new challenges, new decisions, and new responsibilities that stretched her further than she had ever imagined. Yet with every hurdle she overcame, her confidence grew, quietly, steadily, like a flame learning to burn brighter. Despite the progress, the pressure was undeniable. One afternoon, Anna found herself in a conference room surrounded by department heads, each presenting updates on their projects. She listened attentively, taking notes, trying to absorb everything. But when it was time for her to speak, her stomach knotted. She presented the solution she and Ethan had worked on, her voice steady but her palms damp with nerves. For a moment, the room was silent. Then, slowly, heads began to nod. Someone voiced agreement. Another praised her insight. A third offered support to implement the plan. Relief washed over her so strongly, she almost lost her breath. After the meeting, as she stepped into the hallway, Ethan was waiting nearby, leaning casually against the wall with his arms crossed. When their eyes met, he gave her a proud smile that made her heart flutter unexpectedly. "You handled that perfectly," he said. Anna shook her head. With a soft laugh. "I was terrified the entire time." "Good," he teased gently. "It keeps you sharp." She rolled her eyes, but smiled anyway. Just as she was about to say more, Margaret appeared down the hallway, moving slower than usual, supported lightly by a staff member. Anna immediately hurried to her side. "Are you all right?" she asked with concern. Margaret waved a hand dismissively. "Just a little tired, dear. Nothing to worry about." But Anna noticed the slight tremble in her voice, the faint pallor in her cheeks. She exchanged a worried glance with Ethan, who also picked up on it. "I will have the doctor come check on you," Ethan said quietly. Margaret frowned. "Nonsense. I am fine. I just pushed myself too much today." But Ethan's expression remained firm. Anna gently placed a supportive hand on Margaret's arm. "Let us just make sure. It will help you rest easier." After a beat, Margaret sighed and relented. While the staff helped her back to her room, Ethan lingered in the hallway with Anna. "She has been doing better, but some days are harder," he admitted quietly, his voice tinged with worry. Anna nodded with understanding. Recovery is never a straight line. But she is strong. Ethan's gaze softened as he looked at her. "She likes you, more than she admits." Anna felt her cheeks warm at the unexpected sentiment. "I like her too." They stood there for a moment, side by side, sharing an unspoken understanding. The air felt different, warmer, heavier, full of something neither of them dared name. Over the next few days, the work intensified again. The newly approved outreach plan was moving forward, and Anna found herself coordinating teams, visiting partner clinics, and overseeing logistics. The pace was relentless, and although she kept up, exhaustion began to creep in. She stayed late at the office more often, her small desk lamp becoming her constant companion in the dimly lit workspace. One night, after midnight had long passed, Anna sat staring at her computer screen, rubbing the tension from her neck. Her phone buzzed with a message. It was from Ethan. "The lights are still on in your office. Are you all right?" Anna blinked in surprise. She had not realized he was still in the building. She replied hesitantly, "Just finishing some things." Seconds later, she heard footsteps, and then Ethan appeared in her doorway. Sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, expression filled with concern. "Anna, you need rest," he said. She gave a tired smile. "I am okay. Just trying to stay ahead." He stepped inside, lowering his voice. You do not have to prove anything. You are already doing more than enough. She sighed, leaning back in her chair. I just want to do a good job. Ethan moved closer, his tone softening. You are doing an incredible job, but burning yourself out helps no one. Not the team, not the foundation, and definitely not you. Something in his words struck deeper than she expected. For a moment, she felt the weight of everything she had been carrying pressing against her chest. I guess I am afraid of letting people down, she admitted. Ethan's expression gentled. You will never let us down by taking care of yourself. The sincerity in his voice left her breathless. They stood there for a long moment, the room quiet except for the distant hum of the city outside. Then Ethan offered a small smile. Come on, let me walk you out. As they left the office together, side by side in the empty hallway, Anna felt something shift inside her, something soft, something steady, something unmistakably growing between them. And deep down, she knew this connection, whatever it was becoming, would soon change everything. In the days that followed, the atmosphere at the Carter Foundation grew heavier as Margaret's health wavered. Although she tried to brush off the concern, both Anna and Ethan could sense the change. Margaret insisted on attending meetings, speaking with staff, and reviewing progress on the new outreach program. But she tired easily, often gripping the arm of her chair a little too tightly or taking quiet pauses to steady her breath. One evening, after a particularly long day, Margaret called Anna to her room. The soft golden glow of the bedside lamp illuminated her gentle features, and she smiled when Anna entered. Come sit, dear, she whispered. Anna took a seat beside the bed, her heart tightening with worry. Is everything all right? Margaret chuckled softly. You always ask that with such sincerity. Yes, I am all right. Just a little tired. But I wanted to speak with you before I rest. She reached for Anna's hand, her grip warm and comforting. I have watched you grow, my dear. You remind me so much of myself when I was younger, determined, compassionate, stronger than you know. Anna felt her throat tighten as emotions rose. You have helped me more than I can ever repay, she whispered. No, Margaret said firmly. You saved my life. And you brought something else into this house. Hope. My son has not smiled like this in years. Anna's breath caught. She looked down, unsure how to respond. Margaret squeezed her hand. Promise me something, she said softly. Promise me you will allow yourself to live a life with joy, not just responsibility. You deserve it. I promise, Anna whispered, her voice shaking. Margaret gave a satisfied smile. Good. Now go. Get rest. Tomorrow is a new day. The next morning, Margaret's condition worsened. The family doctor arrived quickly, followed by additional staff. Ethan stood at the foot of her bed, his jaw tight, his eyes filled with fear he could not hide. Anna stayed close, doing everything she could to help, her training guiding her through the tense hours. By evening, Margaret's breathing eased, and the crisis passed. She was stable again, but weaker. Ethan stepped outside to catch his breath, leaning against the hallway wall with his head bowed. Anna approached quietly. She is resting now, she said softly. Ethan exhaled shakily. I thought I was losing her. Without thinking, Anna reached out and placed a hand on his arm. She is strong, Ethan. She will keep fighting. He looked up at her, his eyes raw with emotion. I do not know what I would have done without you. The sincerity in his words made her chest ache. You are not alone, she whispered. Their eyes held for a moment longer than either intended, but before the moment could deepen, a staff member called for Ethan. Days passed, and Margaret slowly regained her strength. Meanwhile, the outreach program moved into its most critical stage, a citywide health initiative that Anna had been instrumental in designing. On the morning of the launch, the foundation hosted a small press event. Ethan stood at the podium, speaking confidently about the project, praising the team, the mission, and the vision for the future. Then he paused. There is someone we must acknowledge, he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Someone who has reshaped this program with her insight, her heart, and her lived experience. Anna froze where she stood backstage. Ethan continued, this initiative would not exist without her. She saved my mother's life, and then she saved this project. And every life we reach from this day forward will be, in part, because of her. He looked toward her, offering a gentle nod. Anna, please join me. Her heart pounded as she stepped onto the stage. Cameras flashed, applause filled the room, and for a moment, everything felt surreal. Ethan turned toward her, his voice soft but strong enough for the microphones to catch. "Thank you," he said. "For everything." She swallowed hard. "I just wanted to help." Ethan smiled. "You did far more than that." The event ended, and as the room emptied, Ethan approached her again. This time, there were no cameras, no audience, no expectations. Just the two of them. "There is something I need to say," he began. Anna's breath hitched. "Ethan," he shook his head gently. "Let me finish. When you came into our lives, you changed everything. You helped my mother. You helped this foundation. But you also helped me." His voice softened. "You reminded me of what really matters." Anna felt tears gather behind her eyes, her heart pounding with emotions she had tried for weeks to ignore. "Ethan," he stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "I do not want to pretend anymore. I care about you, Anna. More than I should. More than I expected." Anna felt the world pause. Every moment they had shared, every late night at the office, every quiet conversation, every look, they all suddenly made sense. "I care about you too," she whispered. Ethan exhaled, relief washing over his features. "Then let us take this one step at a time. Together." For the first time in a long time, Anna felt light, hopeful, and completely seen. As they stood there in the quiet room, the city bustling far below them, she knew that her life had changed forever. Not because of the job, not because of the foundation, but because fate had led her to the moment she least expected, where purpose and love found her at the same time. And with Ethan by her side and Margaret cheering her on, Anna finally stepped fully into the life she was always meant to live.